Sam used to believe a simple story about success. If someone made it big, they must have wanted it more. Worked harder, had more discipline, more focus, more grit. And if Sam wasn't where he wanted to be yet, it must mean he wasn't trying hard enough. But here's the uncomfortable twist. That story is mostly wrong. Not because effort doesn't matter, it does, a lot. And most people don't notice them until it's too late. Isn't a personal flaw? What if it's the invisible math of opportunity, stacking quietly in the background? This is Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, and the promise of this book is that it rewires how you see winners, but as humans who were shaped by timing, culture, hidden advantages, and the kinds of chances most of us don't even realize are chances. We're going to walk through every major chapter, so by the end, you'll have the full picture, not a shallow highlight reel. The actual logic Gladwell uses to explain why some people break away from the pack. Let's start with a mystery, but weren't. Roseto, Pennsylvania was a tight, old-world immigrant community. And for a long time, something weird happened there. People lived longer. They had fewer heart attacks. Their health outcomes didn't match what doctors expected. The easy explanation would have been diet, or genetics, or some secret food. But the deeper answer was social. Roseto had a kind of protective net made of relationships. People knew each other, checked on each other, belonged to each other. You're not alone. The health advantage faded too. Right away, we love to credit the individual, but outcomes are often built by the group. That's the theme of everything that follows. Now, most people hear that and instantly get defensive because we want success to be a clean meritocracy. We want it to be fair. We want the scoreboard to reflect effort and talent. But here's where it gets interesting. Fairness is not the natural setting of the world. Systems create advantages. They grow. Gladwell calls this the Matthew Effect. The phrase comes from a biblical line that basically says the rich get richer. But it's also a mechanical one. When someone gets ahead early, they don't just get a trophy. They get resources that create more future wins. Think about a kid in youth sports. If one kid is a little bigger, a little faster, a little more coordinated, coaches notice. That kid gets more playing time, better training, stronger teammates, more confidence, more reps. So the gap widens. That first advantage can be something as random as a birth date. Gladwell points to youth hockey in Canada, where age groups are cut off at January 1st, while still being in the same age bracket. When you're 10, that gap is enormous. One kid has more physical maturity, more strength, more confidence, more social status. Coaches label him as talented. Then the system invests in him. So later, when you see a professional roster filled with people born early in the year, you might call it destiny. But it's also a sorting machine. Sam heard this idea and immediately thought of his own life. He remembered being in school when teachers labeled certain kids as advanced early on. Those kids got pulled into special programs. More attention, more encouragement, more chances to speak, more chances to lead. Sam wasn't a problem kid. He wasn't failing. Average in the early snapshot. So he stayed in the normal lane. And in the normal lane, you don't get extra coaching. You don't get extra doors. One afternoon, Sam tested this in a small, almost silly way. He asked two coworkers how they got into their current roles. Both had a moment that sounded like luck. One got invited to a project because his manager happened to be out sick and needed someone to fill in. That fill-in became a visibility moment. That visibility became a promotion conversation. The other met a mentor at a random volunteer event. One conversation turned into an internship recommendation. Same company, similar talent level. And those boosts compounded. It's like a skateboard rolling downhill. At the top, a tiny push matters. Down the hill, the speed makes everything easier. And anyone starting later has to sprint just to keep up. If success is partly made of opportunity, where do opportunities come from? And it's one of his most famous ideas, the 10,000-hour rule. But don't hear that as a motivational quote. Gladwell isn't saying, just grind for 10,000 hours and you'll be great. He's saying something more sneaky. Even the most naturally gifted people usually had a shocking amount of practice. And that practice wasn't always available to everyone. Talent is real, of course it is. But talent without time is like a race car without fuel. The examples he uses are unforgettable. The Beatles. Most people see the Beatles as a lightning strike. Genius. Magic. Culture changed overnight. When they played endless sets in Hamburg, Germany, long nights, rough rooms, repetition, trial by fire. They weren't just writing songs, they were building stamina, improvisation, stage control, tight timing. They were becoming a machine. And that level of practice wasn't something every band could access. It was a strange, specific opportunity. The right city, the right club scene, the right moment. And then Gladwell does the same thing with Bill Gates. We love the story of the lone genius teenager coding in his bedroom. But Gates had access to a computer terminal at a time when computers were rare. He had chances to program for hours and hours. He found environments that let him practice obsessively. The era when software was about to explode. Again, it's not that Gates wasn't brilliant. It's that his brilliance ran into a runway. Now, you might be thinking, okay, fine. Practice matters. Opportunity matters. But what about raw intelligence? Surely that is the separator. Gladwell spends 2 chapters on what he calls the trouble with geniuses. But it doesn't guarantee success. And it can even create a kind of trap where we assume a high score equals a high life outcome. He talks about IQ as having a threshold. Below the threshold, you struggle to do certain complex work. Above the threshold, you can do it. But once you're past smart enough, being even smarter doesn't automatically turn into achievement. It's like height in basketball. If you're too short, you can't play at the top level. But beyond a certain point, being taller doesn't guarantee you become the best player on earth. There are other skills that suddenly dominate. Social intelligence, practical intelligence, the ability to navigate institutions, the ability to talk to power, the ability to ask. This is where Gladwell contrasts different kinds of smart lives, including stories about people with extraordinary test scores who didn't end up with extraordinary careers. Some people grow up learning how to speak to adults like equals. Others grow up learning to stay quiet. Some people are taught, without realizing it, that institutions can be negotiated with. Others are taught that institutions are walls, but decide big outcomes. Sam had a moment like that. He was at a car repair shop. The mechanic told him a part would take a week. Sam nodded and walked out. Later, a friend heard the story and said, "Why didn't you ask if they could order it from a different supplier? Or check another location?" Sam blinked. It never occurred to him that he could negotiate a process. But because his default relationship to authority was passive, so Sam tried something new. The next time he had a problem with a bill, he called and calmly asked for options. Not in a rude way, not demanding, just curious. And the results shocked him. The person on the phone offered a payment plan and removed a fee. Nothing heroic happened. No dramatic victory music. The world has hidden levers, and some people grow up learning to pull them. Okay, so if that was surprising, wait until you hear this. Because Gladwell then shows how success can be built from something even messier than opportunity and intelligence. Culture. The invisible inheritance of attitudes, habits, communication styles, and expectations passed down through generations. He calls these cultural legacies. And the first legacy story is not a happy one. Harlan, Kentucky. A place with a history of feuds, violence, and a culture of honor that traces back to a kind of heritage. Herding cultures where protecting your reputation mattered because animals could be stolen and the world demanded aggression to deter threats. In those environments, the worst thing you can be is disrespected. So a harsh response becomes normal. The echo of that legacy can live long after the original conditions disappear. It becomes a reflex, a learned posture. Gladwell's point isn't that people are doomed by their heritage. It's that the past leaves fingerprints on the present. Sam saw this in his own family, but in the way conflict was handled. In his house growing up, raising your voice meant you were serious. Backing down meant you were weak. So as an adult, Sam sometimes felt a weird rush when he argued, like the argument itself was a performance of strength. But in a workplace, that energy doesn't read as strength. It reads as volatility. One day, Sam had a conversation with a teammate who said something simple, but it landed hard. He said, "You don't have to win the moment. You have to win the relationship." That sentence changed Sam's posture because Sam realized he'd been fighting ghosts. Old rules in a new world. It's like trying to use an old key on a new lock, but now it just scratches the metal. Now, the most famous cultural legacy chapter is the one about plane crashes, and Gladwell uses it to talk about communication styles in the cockpit. And flying a modern airplane is a team sport. The captain is not supposed to be a lone hero. The crew must exchange information clearly, fast, honestly. But in some high-power distance cultures, direct disagreement with authority can feel taboo. People soften their language, they hint, they suggest, even when directness is needed. Gladwell explores examples where accidents weren't caused by mechanical failure, but by human communication patterns. Warnings were delivered too gently. Concerns were phrased as politeness. And then he shows what happens when an organization takes culture seriously and rebuilds how people speak, train, and challenge. Here's the part nobody talks about. This isn't only about airplanes. It's about every room where someone feels lower status. Every meeting where someone thinks, "I don't want to sound stupid." Every relationship where someone thinks, "I don't want to upset them." Every workplace where someone thinks, "I can't challenge my boss," and deadly. Sam tested this idea at work in a low-stakes way. He used to soften everything. I'm not sure, but then he tried a different style. Still respectful, still calm, but clear. I think this will cause a problem because of this reason. Here's my suggestion. The difference was immediate. People didn't get offended. They got relief. Because clarity lowers anxiety. It removes guessing. It's like turning on the lights in a messy room. But now you can deal with it. Now to language in the classroom. Rice paddies and math tests. At first, this sounds random, but it becomes one of the book's strongest points about cultural habits. Gladwell explores why certain cultures produce kids who seem unusually strong at math. And he ties it to two things. One is language. Some number words are shorter and more structured, making arithmetic easier to hold in your head. The naming system itself can be more transparent. The second is work ethic shaped by farming traditions. Rice cultivation is labor-intensive. It demands constant attention. Small mistakes matter. The work is repetitive, exacting, patient. In communities built around that kind of farming, effort isn't romantic. It's normal. If you're stuck, you don't quit. You adjust. You keep going. You don't get praised for talent. You get praised for persistence. And that legacy leaks into how kids approach math homework. Sam thought about how different this felt from the way he grew up. In his environment, people praised intelligence like it was identity. You're so smart. You're gifted. But the dark side of that praise is that it can make effort feel like evidence you're not gifted. If it's hard, maybe I'm not a math person. If it's hard, maybe I'm not meant for this. So Sam ran a personal experiment. He picked one skill he always believed he wasn't naturally good at, and he gave himself a rule. For 14 days, he would practice for a set time no matter how bad it felt. No drama, no self-judgment, just reps. It was uncomfortable, boring, humbling. And on about the 8th day, something clicked. Not mastery, not greatness, just a shift in identity. He stopped asking, "Am I talented?" and started asking, "Did I do the work today?" That's a massive change because the second question is controllable. Now, in this next part is what really changed how Gladwell doesn't let you romanticize culture either. He keeps showing trade-offs, and he brings the story back to education in a very specific way. Marita's bargain. Marita is a student who gets into a demanding school environment with longer days, heavier homework, stricter expectations. And the point isn't that she becomes a superhero. The point is that her environment creates a culture of effort, a culture of studying, a culture of delayed gratification. She's not suddenly more talented than other kids. She's in a system that makes time and structure available. Access to time, access to practice, access to adults who push, access to peers who normalize hard work. And Gladwell frames it like a bargain. You trade comfort now for options later. Most people never get offered that bargain. Or they get offered it once and they don't recognize it. Sam remembered being offered bargains like that, but refusing without realizing what he was doing. A friend invited him to join a weekend course. Sam said he was busy. Someone offered him a role that would stretch him. Sam said he wasn't ready. Each time he told himself he was being realistic. Or was he protecting his comfort? This is where the book starts to feel less like sociology and more like a mirror. Because yes, it's about systems, but it's also about the moments when you and whether you walk through it. Now we have to talk about Joe Flom, because Gladwell uses Joe Flom's life to show how success can be the result of 3 different forces landing on the same person at the same time. Talent matters, timing matters, and culture matters. Joe Flom becomes a lawyer, and his path isn't a straight line of genius. It's a story shaped by the historical moment he was born into and the niche he was pushed toward. Gladwell talks about how certain law firms didn't want certain kinds of people. Certain prestigious paths were blocked, like dealing with hostile takeovers and corporate battles that old-school lawyers saw as dirty. But that dirty niche later became incredibly valuable. So the very thing that looked like a disadvantage became a setup. If you only look at the end, you call it brilliance. If you look at the path, you see a pattern. Barriers can redirect you into territory everyone else ignores. And ignored territory can become the richest land. Sam had a smaller version of this. He wanted a flashy role, a visible role, the kind that gets applause. But he kept getting assigned the boring work: documentation, systems, training new hires, fixing process problems nobody wanted. Sam hated it, until he noticed something. When managers talked about who they trusted, they didn't name the flashy people. They named the people who made things run. So Sam leaned into it. He became the guy who could make chaos calm. And a year later, when a leadership role opened, proof that he could stabilize a system. That's not a glamorous skill, but it's a powerful one. It's like being the person who knows how the plumbing works. Until the pipe bursts, then the plumber is the hero. Now being born in the right year. Because certain industries explode at certain moments, and if you're the right age when the wave hits, you can ride it. If you're too early, the tools don't exist. If you're too late, the market is crowded. This is why Gladwell spends time looking at the birth years of tech giants and showing clustering. It's not because those people were the only smart ones alive. It's because they were the right age when personal computing went from rare to revolutionary. And that point should make you feel both humble and hopeful. Humble because it means you don't control everything. Hopeful because it means you don't have to interpret every delay as failure. Off. And timing can change. Now you might be thinking, okay, so success is luck and culture and timing and opportunities and practice. Where does that leave personal responsibility? Here's the truth. Gladwell isn't saying people don't earn success. He's saying we misunderstand what earning actually includes. Earning includes noticing the opportunity. Earning includes showing up for practice when the door is open, like communication and persistence. Earning includes taking the bargain and maybe using them to create gifts for others. This is where the epilogue lands, a Jamaican story. Gladwell ties his themes together through a personal and cultural lens, pointing to how histories of education, work, language, and class shape what people see as possible and what kind of confidence they carry into the world. And that's the last major punch of people don't rise or fall in isolation. They rise with the stories, habits, and structures that surround them. Even your idea of what success looks like can be inherited. That means 2 things. 1, if you felt like you were running uphill while others seemed to glide, you're not crazy. 2, if you want to change your life, you don't only change your attitude, you change your environment, you change your inputs, you change the people around you, you change the amount of time you can devote to practice. You build your own Roseto, not a town necessarily, but a community that reinforces the kind of person you're trying to become. Because when the culture around you supports your goals, discipline stops feeling like a war and becomes a routine. Now, before we close, let's turn this into action. Here are a few things you can start doing right now based on what we just covered. First, audit your opportunities, not your motivation. Ask yourself where you're getting reps, where you're not. If you want to improve fast, You need a place that gives you real practice time, not occasional bursts of effort. Second, find one lever you've been afraid to pull, one small moment where you can negotiate with the world. Ask for clarification, ask for an option, ask for help. You're not being annoying, you're being awake. Third, stop praising yourself for being smart and start rewarding yourself for showing up. Pick one skill and commit to a short practice streak. Make it boring on purpose. That's how you build the 10,000-hour engine. Fourth, pay attention to how you speak under pressure. If you soften everything, people guess. If you explode, people hide. Practice calm clarity. It's one of the rare skills that works in every arena. And fifth, build your own Roseto. Choose people who normalize growth. Choose environments that make good behavior easier. And your future is shaped by what your world quietly encourages. Because the biggest outlier advantage isn't talent. It's a system that keeps you practicing when you would have quit alone. That's it for this video. I hope it was useful and gave you something real to think about. Thanks for watching and have a great day.